came on, and those water levels are already dangerously high, and the hurricane hasn't even made landfall yet.
Exactly, David. We were a little caught off guard and surprised by how high it was at high tide time this morning at about 8:30. We've got another high tide coming at about 8:30 at night for the Battery, which is just about when that storm should be settling on shore. Let's give you a look at the health of this storm system. We'll show you that first with a satellite. You'll look at a deep kind of collected area of clouds that is off.
You are watching special coverage of President Obama in the briefing room out of the White House, really focusing on 3 points, asking people up and down the East Coast to listen to local and state leaders, follow instructions so that you will stay safe. Also, advising people about transportation. Most of it has been closed up and down the East Coast. Airlines have canceled flights, trains, buses, and that transportation will be tied up for some time. And really, Doreen, asking for patience from people. And especially as it comes to power outages. He's expecting a lot of power outages, as we all are, and says that it could take some time to get back up and out of the dark.
And speaking of power outages, we just got the latest update from National Grid. There are over 6,000 customers in the state of Rhode Island without power at this hour, mostly in Cumberland. 4,718 National Grid customers without power, and it's not even 1 o'clock yet.
They were expecting a pretty quick turnaround.
They are.
Time
Their estimated
right?
restoration time is 4:15. Of course, that is just an estimate,
Right.
and hopefully it will come back before the worst of the storm later on this evening. And speaking of, let's get the latest on Sandy. Steve is standing by.
All right, not much change, guys. Still a hurricane-force wind warning for the coast, 75-mile-an-hour wind storm warning for Narragansett Bay, the mouth of the bay, 10 to 15-foot storm surge. Here's the latest now, less than 200 miles south and east of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Still packing winds of 90. It's beginning to take that northwest, and it'll take more of a west-northwest turn, averaging about 18 miles per hour. May pick up some forward speed, and will start to weaken once it moves inland, but don't be fooled by that because it's such a large storm, one of the largest storms ever in the Atlantic, more than 1,000 miles in diameter. Put that into perspective. It's almost 3 times the size of what Irene was, so that's how big it is. Major to moderate flooding for the next high tide. The next astronomical high tide comes in at 8:23 this evening, and that's why there's a coastal flood warning for Narragansett Bay, southern Rhode Island, most of Cape Cod and the islands, and we're all in a high wind warning that goes right until early tomorrow morning. 30 to 50 mile an hour sustained, gusts to 60, still the potential of 70 mile an hour gusts right along the coast this afternoon. Here's the track. Hasn't changed very much in the last several days. Still looks like landfall close to Atlantic City, New Jersey, probably before 8 o'clock this evening. Then it becomes extra tropical, still pretty strong until it starts to move across Pennsylvania, upstate New York during the day tomorrow, and that's when it will weaken considerably. We're getting some of the showery rains now, some of these tropical downpours finally making its way up to us. It took all morning for that to happen, so this will continue. Rainfall amounts on the average of 1 to 3 inches, but it's the wind. And look at these winds, averaging 30 in Providence, 32 on the Vineyard, 35 the average wind in New Bedford. And we're seeing the gusts now close to, if not above 50, 57 on the Vineyard, 48 Nantucket, gusting to 44 Newport. Providence, we're seeing a gust to 43. So these wind gusts will increase easily another 15 to 20 miles per hour. Northeast wind this morning. Here's the problem now. Winds shift east and then eventually southeast, moving up the bay, that funneling effect along Narragansett Bay, pushing that wall of that storm surge into the bay. That's why they closed the hurricane barrier to protect the Providence River from getting flooded. But those winds are going to be very strong for that next high tide, and then the winds diminish considerably. By tomorrow morning, things will improve dramatically, even very late tonight. And as I mentioned, almost 1,000 miles in diameter. Usually hurricanes have hurricane force winds 50 miles from the storm center, tropical storm about 200. This one has hurricane force winds almost 200 miles from the storm center and tropical storm force winds at one point more than 500 miles. So this will be felt all the way to Maine, upstate New York, and even across Virginia, where there actually could see snow in the mountains of West Virginia as that storm system brings the colder air in. Everything should begin to diminish again in intensity tomorrow. Here's the wider view. You can see all of that wet weather coming in off the ocean with that hurricane. Here's the cold air on the backside of the storm. As I mentioned, could be seeing some rain changing to snow there. For us, it's the rain, it's the wind this afternoon. That will continue near 60. We're looking at very windy conditions this evening. Overnight lows around 60 degrees. And then during the day tomorrow, much improvement. Showers, windy early on the bay. That storm warning still in effect for those winds. 30 to 50, gusting to 60. They'll shift into the east-southeast. Here's that 7-day. 66 tomorrow as we begin the cleanup with showers and brisk conditions in the morning. Trick-or-treat is good news. You'll be able to go trick-or-treating. Again, you may have to step over some tree limbs, but much improvement on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, we dry out. And right now, the weekend should be sunny and a lot better in the middle 50s.
You know, Steve, we saw with Allie down in Narragansett, you know, she was saying a half hour later, we saw her throughout this hour newscast, of just how quickly the winds are picking up, and it can happen like that.
Exactly, and that's going to be the case now for the next several hours. The conditions will continue to deteriorate as the storm center gets closer to us and goes across Atlantic City. So the next 4, 5, 6 hours, that's the worst of this storm.
And we, of course, are going to continue to update our viewers with the latest on the storm. You and Kevin Coskren are going to be here updating us as well. We do want to mention that Governor Chafee has announced that the decision to close highways, including 95, is under consideration. So that is something that we will continue to update folks on as we do our updates throughout the afternoon. As we know, Connecticut has already made this decision, so we will stay on top of that for you.
And the governor is touring various parts of Rhode Island, and we are right along there with him, so stay tuned to ABC6 for those updates. And we are going to come back on the air at 4 o'clock. We'll be on the air with a newscast till 8 o'clock, and tomorrow morning an hour earlier too, at 4
a.m. Exactly.
And the next weather update, 2 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day. We'll see you at 4.
Jeff Probst, weekdays at 3 on ABC6.
Today on The Chew, for a Halloween party on a boat.